Thank you for joining me here tonight at THG Network. I am Mervin Hanley. My guest tonight is from Nevis, and she is a politician. Jaedee Caines joins me, and Jaedee, welcome. It's a pleasure to talk to you again.
Greetings, Mervin, and greetings to your audience. Thank you very much for having me. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be featured today.
Jaedee, what have you been up to since the December elections? You came so close in winning the incumbent, but I am sure they'll be the first to point out that a win is a win, no matter how close you get. What have you been up to?
They're so correct. A win is a win, no matter how close you get. And I did, in fact, win. I think they themselves know that I won.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why we sought to take legal action in that regard. But nonetheless, of course, the results that were presented to the public were a bit disappointing for myself and members of my team. And I would say for a good portion of the island of Nevis, a good portion of the electorate, because certainly the fact that we had such a turnout and results coming so close suggests that people really wanted change.
Mm-hmm.
But since the elections, I mean, at first, there was a lot of activity still because we organized a peaceful protest the same day that the government had its swearing-in, its inauguration,
mm-hmm.
for want of a better term. So we organized a peaceful protest. We had that. We still continued our radio and TV features, radio features rather, and we continue to do our work in the community. Now, I am not one of those politicians, in quotations, one of those politicians who only performs when there's an election,
right,
or when they decide that they want to enter elective politics. Anyone who knows me can tell you that I've always been very much involved in the community, and so that has not stopped. Perhaps it has not been as intensified as it was during the lead up to the election,
mm-hmm.
In terms of the features to the public, because not everything I do is captured on camera and shown to the public. But definitely, I continue to be engaged and involved in my community. I run a sponsorship program at the Charlestown Primary School, sponsoring lunches for children. That continued even after the election. I am also actively involved in, what I call it is assisting persons with public speaking,
yes,
and anything to do with communication. That happened even before I was involved in elective politics. I have now somewhat refined it and given it that exact name,
refined.
Yes, to help persons in whatever way possible as it relates to communications. I continue to do that. I am also involved in Culturama, and I have my children's revelry troupe Badai, and Culturama 49 just ended, and I was able to have my troupe once again. I think this year we had about 83 persons.
Wow.
Somewhere in that. It definitely wasn't less than that. And so we are looking forward to Culturama 50. And this is something that I've been doing since 2017. So this Culturama. So I've been involved. I've been very busy. And of course, I'm a parent. Maybe your audience may not know I'm a parent. And I am one of those very active parents. I want to be involved in everything that my child is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's sports, I'm right there. The academic portion, I'm right there. All of the little activities in the community, I'm right there. So, yes, I've been quite busy with it.
Well, yes, I am. Quite an exhaustive season there for you. Now, you mentioned, two things. You went to the court for this election. Where are we on that? Or where are you on that at this time?
Well, Mervin, I would say it's in the hands of the legal minds.
Okay.
Because the last I checked, we had not gotten back feedback on the last submission. And I am not a legal mind, but maybe I shouldn't even say the last submission. It was part 1 of 2.
Right.
And so I have not received feedback on part 2. Part 2 of 2.
Okay.
And so, it's still waiting to hear what the feedback would be like. One of the things I can say to you as it relates to that, Mervin, whether the results go in our favor or not, that will not stop me from working for the people of Nevis.
Yes.
I am comforted based on the feedback that I've received that our people, particularly those in Charlestown, are not comfortable with the level of representation that we are getting. We continue to feel that our representative is not strong enough to stand up and demand that St. Paul's be recognized and not just get the bare minimum or get what the other constituencies don't want. It seems to me that St. Paul's only became in the spotlight, only was featured when the election was coming close and they recognized that people wanted to gain with Caines. And so that is when it seemed that St. Paul's began getting some attention. And I mean, no disrespect to my opponent, but people want a representative who is strong. Not someone who is timid, not someone who is weak, and not someone who, just kind of settles. It's not just about being someone who people like. It's about being someone who can competently represent them. And if it is a case where we can only get representation on the eve of an election, then that's something that I have a problem with. Additionally, we cannot, as representatives, just look at the portfolios that we are responsible for. Yes, you might be Minister of Culture, for example. We expect you to work in the area of culture because that is your ministry. But how has your being named the MP impacted the people who put you there? And that's one of the things I find that we are having a major issue with on the island of Nevis. Our MPs may do some work, minimal as it is, but may do some work in their ministries, but they neglect the constituency component.
Yes.
Additionally, in St. Paul's, it seems that it's very one-sided, where we have quite a few young people, and not so young as well, people with families, people with needs, because the reality is it's very hard to live on the island of Nevis. The cost of living is really, really high. Living is really high, and so you find that there are some persons who have seasonal jobs or no jobs at all. You may gather up the young men and you give them a job for maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months tops to cut the grass on the side of the road, and then that's it, nothing else thereafter. But then you hear of stories of, and it's not fairy tales, it's actual stories where a select few are raking in hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars they're raking in the name of politics, and that cannot be right. That cannot be right.
Now, in your opening remarks, you mentioned the word refined. So I have to ask you this: if any, what are the lessons you learned from the campaign trail? Is there anything you would have done differently, or are you now in that refining mode of bettering or preparing yourself?
I recognize that fundraising is a major component of elections, and it's sad because you would think that people who are complaining about lack of representation would come forward and say, listen, no amount of money can determine my future. So I found that the lack of funds played a major role, and I'll tell you what I mean, because I am not in the habit of paying anybody for their vote. I will not do that. If I don't have money that I can spread around to everybody, not to pay them for their vote, but just to make their situation a little better, I don't feel like I should be doing it for anyone at all. Because it's sending a message that your vote means more to me than someone else's. And surely that is not the case. And so it is not a case where you don't respect people and you don't feel like people need help, but to pay you for your vote, that's not my stance. But it seems it has been the culture on the island of Nevis, And so money played a major role there. Additionally, when I talk about the lack of financing, it seemed as if more money would have been beneficial in terms of getting persons on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nevis has a unique situation, and maybe a few other islands in the Caribbean, where we have a lot of overseas voters, persons who are residents of Nevis, citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, rather, and they do have the right to vote because of their citizenship, but they have resided overseas for some time. Because of that, and because we want the elections to go a particular way,
mm-hmm.
we tend to bring persons to the island to vote. It may not be something that many of us agree with, and I certainly feel like there are ways to get around this, but the reality is that is how it is at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And you would find that myself was not in a position to do that. I really was not in a position to do that. But I know on the other side, lots of money was being pumped into doing stuff like that. So that was one of the things, again, where money played a major role. And, just the little odds and ends, wanting to do a little bit more in the community. And those, for sure, required funding. Outside of funding, though, I believe that, yes, I could have done more. I did a lot of house to house, but I would have liked to do some more. And that's one of the reasons why I've continued engaging members of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, not at the level that I did during the election campaign, but definitely still maintaining that presence in the community. We, you visit people, you call people, you're just keeping in touch. So that's one of the refining things that I recognize needs to be done, and I'm working on.
And isn't it a shame, though, Jaedee, that it boils down to, because nowadays elections cost millions and millions of dollars. Isn't it a shame that for a vote to win an election, it's not, well, it's hardly on issues for some, but for many, it boils down to we can win an election. Once we have $1 million or $2 million, we are guaranteed to win this election.
It is a shame. And I'll say this frankly, Mervin. One of the things some persons may not like about me, even persons who I know want to see us win an election, they may not like the fact that I say exactly that. That we need to get away from this. We need to find ways collectively of getting people to recognize the message. I'm not saying it will happen overnight, but we must make an effort, a deliberate attempt to get this done. And I've said it, and I continue to push this. I'm not paying anybody for any vote and that kind of thing. And a lot of people were upset with me over that. Persons are saying, oh, but you can't have that attitude. Mervin, I believe right is right. No matter who's doing it, wrong is wrong, no matter who's doing it. But I agree with you, it is a shame.
But in the coin, on the other coin, the other side of the coin to that, if the way to get out the message, as you say, will be the house to house to really dominate the ground.
Correct. And that's one of the things I am working on to ensure that, we don't have that situation again the next time around.
Great.
Because even though, and I'll make this clear, even though I feel in my heart that I won that election in Charlestown, it still should not have been disclosed.
Mm-hmm.
Not for the lack of representation we are getting. So I know persons may be saying, but if she says she won the election, why does she feel the need to do all of this? That's because it should not have been disclosed to begin with. So I really recognize that, and I want to try to not have this be repeated.
Now, Jaedee, the party went through a trying and testing period after the very public fallout of the Honorable Cleode Stapleton Simmons. You now have Rohan Isles, who was recently ratified by your party's executive. Now, how do you see the party now moving forward and to have Rohan Isles right at home? Yes, he was in Gingerland, but now he's right at home in St. Thomas's. How do you feel at this time moving forward?
Rohan Isles is a remarkable candidate, in my opinion. I think Rohan has a lot to offer. I know him from from school days, because we've been involved in many activities together. We have similar interests in terms of debating and youth parliament, etc. So I know him in that light, and he's also an excellent parent, a very involved father. Rohan is someone who loves the community, and he's willing to work regardless of where he's placed. But naturally, I can imagine he will feel that sense of pride being in St. Thomas's, a place that he grew up, a place that he calls home to this day. And so I think that is an excellent move on our party's behalf. And I will say here publicly that I throw my support behind Rohan Hiles 1,000%, because I know what he stands for, and I think he has a lot to offer. I think people have asked me how I feel about the fallout, for want of a better term, as it relates to the name you previously mentioned. And to be honest, I say if it is God's will, it's God's will. Because when you consider, and I have no ill feeling or anything, but I believe in moving on. I believe in moving on. It is what it is. Let's move forward. And I wish that person whatever it is God has for them. Now, I believe, based on how everything unfolded, had we been in government, we may have been in a serious problem, because a lot of these things did not come out before we were aware of a lot of these things, and it seemed as if we were dealing with a seesaw. You know, one minute it's one way and next minute it's another way. So can you imagine if we were elected to government with that previous person being part of the team, considering what we know now, how that would have been and how detrimental it possibly could have been for the people of Nevis. And so maybe God decided, guys, I know you mean well, but this is not your time. And so if that is his will, I can accept his will. But I am about moving forward, and I think we are better placed. I think we are better placed to move the island of Nevis forward.
We're speaking to Jaedee Caines. Tell you what, Jaedee, let's take a quick break. We'll hear from our sponsors on St. Martin. We'll be right back here at THG Network. Marlin Sons have been serving the people of St. Martin for over 40 years. And the food and service get better and better. From early morning, customers flock to the bakery for their favorite sandwiches, cakes, pastries, you name it. First thing at mornings and last thing at afternoons, folks rush to Carl & Sons for simply the best. There are two locations, Cold Bay and on the Pondville. In Cold Bay, the opening hours are Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Saturdays, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Sundays, 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Opening hours on the Pondville, Monday to Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. We also cater for weddings, parties, special events, whatever the occasion. It's Carl & Sons. Our staff, we are always happy to serve you. Call us today, the Colby location, 721-544-2462. That's 721-544-2462. Or in Phillipsburg, 721-543-1059. That's 721-543-1059. It's Carl & Sons Bakery. We are here to serve you. And we're back with Jaedee Caines, the candidate who represented the Nevis Reformation Party in the Charlestown St. Paul's district. And Jaedee, welcome back. Now, the CCM-led government seems to be on defense as of late, especially in a number of areas. But one area they are rather vulnerable, and that is the hospital. Now, here is what you had to say about cat, rat, incompetence, dialysis. Let's give a listen.
And while we let that marinate in our minds, I want to remind you I want to remind all of us that the hospital expansion, the new hospital, whatever term we want to call it, is still nowhere near completion. It is nowhere near completion. And the children who are entering grade 6 this week entered kindergarten that same year they broke ground. I want you to remember that, because if you can't think of it as so much time has passed, consider that the children were spelling rat and cat, C-A-T, cat, R-A-T, rat. And now they're spelling education, they're spelling principle, they're spelling photosynthesis, they're spelling all kind of words. But when we broke ground and said that the hospital expansion is coming soon, they were spelling R-A-T, rat, C-A-T, cat. Okay? They could spell expansion, they could spell radiology, they could spell dialysis, they could spell incompetent. I wish they could vote, because somehow I feel like they got more sense than some of us who are registered. I wish they could vote. I wish they were able to vote, because they are not recognize that this government isn't performing. And as old as they are, I want them to spell go, G-O, because that is what this government must do. They must go. We've had enough of them. This ain't no name brand. We on the mark. We can't get set go yet. We still on the mark. We can't get set go yet.
That's you, Jaedee. That was some passion there. All of us are wondering, though, what's going on with the hospital. Take it over.
It may be easier to ask what's not going on with the hospital, Mervin. Because the reality is, and it's quite sad, that we had a groundbreaking ceremony for the expansion of the Alexandra Hospital back in 2017. The hospital is nowhere near completion. And I tell people all the time, it is not a matter of politics, it's about us being realistic. Health affects us all. We all need health care. We all need proper health care. We all need access to health care. Because at the end of it all, diseases and illnesses and sicknesses will not select NRP supporters over CCM supporters, or the reverse. So we cannot continue to play politics with the hospital expansion. The reality is the hospital expansion is significantly behind, and we need to call it like it is. I find that our current premier was once the Minister of Health, and he has shied away from that. Then he was the Senior Minister of Health, he had a Junior Minister, and he still shied away. Now it seems he has taken a hands-off approach when it comes to the hospital. Very junior. I mean, if the previous minister was junior, this is junior. This is junior to be the minister. I have nothing against the current minister, but it's out of her reach. It's out of her reach. In fact, it is out of the reach of all of the members of the cabinet. It is out of their reach simply because they're out of touch. And one of the things I have a serious problem with this government, Mervin, is that they fail to reach out to the people with the know-how. It's almost as if we can't do it, it won't be done. And that is what is stifling us on the island of Nevis when it comes to this hospital expansion. I mean, recently on another radio program, I spoke about the excuses that were given. And I say excuses because after a while, we can't just call them updates, because they only happen when prompted by members of the media. And you hear things like, okay, we had to revisit the design, and someone came in and they told us that we have to do some redesigning. And Mervin, this is when the structure is already there. That is when the physical structure is there. So, I mean, at what point did you recognize that you are building a hospital and not a bus stop? And I have to put it plainly, because, the Premier himself made statements such as, oh, we were told that hospitals have a particular design, and there are certain things that must be applied when you're dealing with constructing a hospital. And I asked myself, well, who didn't know this? You didn't know this? They have an architect, and I use that term loosely, sitting in the cabinet, and he was the architect back then. He played a significant role in the design of the hospital expansion because that was the government's way of getting him some additional funds to run his campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Getting him some additional funds to run his campaign, because this was in the lead up to the election. And so we chose that approach, and I have nothing against the gentleman, you know. I have nothing against the gentleman. I am actually quite fond of the gentleman. But I realized that after he recognized that there was some competition coming his way, he started to cross the street when he saw me.
I know it's a serious situation. I don't mean to... Go ahead.
Mervin, that's fine, but I have to tell it like it is. You know, if you're so comfortable and proud of what your work, then I don't understand why you think one time you almost fell down, you know, Mervin, because you're trying to dodge me, you know. But anyways, the reality is you were the architect responsible, and now you sit in the cabinet and you realize that these things are people dodge it. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. That alone should bring down this minister, because it shows that he's a colossal failure. He's a colossal failure, you know, and I have a problem with these kind of things. So anyway, we've had to do some redesigning. They continue to be knocking down walls inside the hospital, and in an attempt to deceive the people of Nevis on the eve of an election, we threw some paint on the building. Because, you know, when you see paint on a building, you feel like it's done.
It's Christmas.
We have a door via at the hospital, an exterior door that leads to nowhere. I call it the door to heaven, because there are no steps. There are no steps, but you're on the second or third floor. And there are no steps, Mervin, and this is a door to outside. So as a matter of fact, maybe I shouldn't call it the door to heaven, maybe I should call it the door to hell. Because when you step, if you were to step on that door, at the in the doorway, after that is down without steps.
Wow.
There's no step. I mean, I can't understand this. Continue to any right thinking division, anybody who loves Nevis and who loves themselves. Because like I tell you, we all need adequate health care. Should be saying that this thing is wrong, regardless of who you support, Mervin.
So let me ask you this then. Tomorrow the NRP wins the government, and the Premier Daniel Hodge assigns Jaedee Caines the portfolio of Minister of Health. What would be your first order of business?
Mervin, I must be in consultation with the people who know how to get the job done. As a Minister of Government, yes, you may have some experience, but your experience is mainly managing, your experience is mainly coordinating. You need the people. I will need the people who know how to get the work done to get it done. I can't jump in and say I have all the answers, because I am not an architect. I am not someone who specializes in the design of hospitals. I do have common sense, and that is why I was able to point out some of the basic things. But Mervin, I am not so pompous that I feel like I don't need anybody else. And so that is why I will engage those with the know-how to tell us where we are and where we need to go. And guess what? I will not hide that information from the general public. If it means that the project is going to take an additional year, we need to let them know. But I will be as transparent as possible, but definitely working closely with those with the know-how. And even if it means that some of them were never NRP supporters, that's okay. Because when elected, I am not working for NRP supporters. I am working for the people of Nevis.
Now let's move on to education. Jaedee, we see that for this new school term, that a number of female principals, not just female principals, mind you, but young female principals. Now, you coming in from a political party that in the last local election, out of 5 seats, ran 4 women on its slate. So to see this must have been some joy for you in a sense.
Yes, of course. I was very excited excited, and I remain very excited about the selections as it relates to principals. And I love to see women, young women, really going out there and doing what they're capable of doing. What is even more important to me, Mervin, is not just giving a woman a job because she's a woman and we want to see women out there. It's giving people jobs because you know that they are competent. And I know that these young ladies have the know-how. And so I give them my support 100%. And I think that they can do great things. And I'm hoping that the public can give them a chance as well. They won't have all the answers because we had all the people who didn't have all the answers. But let us work collaboratively. There's nothing wrong with reaching out to a former principal, a former teacher, someone who is more seasoned than you. Some ideas. There's nothing wrong with that. Or even ask them, how did you do this? You know, don't just come in with your ideas only and want to change everything and not consider that there were some things that worked well. So for the things that worked well, nothing is wrong with engaging those of the past. But I am totally in favor of this move, and I want to commend those who had any part to play in having these young persons in particular take up these leadership roles. We have and people talk about this when I speak this, they're like, oh, but some of them are affiliated with the other party. You see, that's where you will lose me. For me, it is about moving Nevis forward. If it is that you are affiliated with the other party, or we would think so, because at the end of the day, you don't know who people place their X for.
Yes.
But if you think that they're affiliated with the other party, but they're capable of getting the job done, they're the best suited right now, I support it, Mervin.
There are those who may argue, you just spoke about competency and all of that, and that is great. But there are those who would probably argue, aren't there qualified and competent men as well? Are we saying that not one qualified male educator was interested in being a principal or a deputy? What are your...
I can't say that there wasn't any. I'm pretty sure that there are. And even right now, there are other females as well who are also capable, qualified, and competent. But naturally, everyone can't be a principal. Everyone can't be a deputy principal. So I think, it's being a leader is a difficult thing. You won't be able to please everyone. I am comfortable with the choices that they made, and it doesn't mean that you have to keep them forever and ever. Amen. If someone comes up later and they show that interest and they are capable as well, give them that same opportunity. But for now, I am comfortable with the selection.
Let's take a look at this clip. What viewers are about to look at it, which looks like the kitchen of the Ivor Walters Primary School and what teachers met on their arrival. Let's take a look. One big sigh. Now, quite frankly, that looks disgusting. Is the CCM-led government saying to us they did not have time? They did not have time, at least 2 months to complete this work? And why is it that year after year, Jaedee, our schools cannot be completed for whatever little upgrade may be needed?
Mervin, it's because the CCM is in it. The CCM is inept, the CCM is a waste of time, the CCM does not know how to lead, the CCM does not know how to manage, the CCM is more concerned with giving money to their friends and awarding contracts, whether above the table or under the table, for people to clear lands and not have anything being done on the lands. These are the kind of things that entice this administration. Okay? School has been out for about 2 months. Maybe this is nothing new. We continue to wait until school is about to open or when school has opened to be running up and down and doing repairs. And the reality is what we have now that we didn't have before is a maintenance team specifically for education department, specifically assigned to the schools. But sometimes I can't even blame members of these teams. You know why? Because the policy direction must come from the top. And so if there's nobody here to demand and ensure that this is what is done, then how can we complain that it is not being done? How can we complain that it is not being done? So yes, I've heard persons criticize and say the team isn't doing anything, but who is out there demanding that the team gets its work done? Additionally, the maintenance team is somewhat small to be able to cover all of the schools. And so you cannot just operate on an ad hoc way. You must have a schedule in place.
But is the maintenance team, if the maintenance team is on a payroll monthly, the maintenance team, are they only working during the summer? I would think that they work all year, all throughout the year.
Bingo. Exactly. And that's exactly the point I was making. You must have a schedule in place. And so they may be able to take a hammer and pound a nail. They may be able to paint. They may be able to do some tiling, but they may not be able to schedule. They may not be able to manage a schedule and say, this takes priority right now. And so that is what I'm talking about the policy direction. They need people in there to tell them, listen, this is what needs to be done. But bigger than that, Mervin, it shows that these ministers, they are not in touch with the schools, because I could have told you that the schools at Charleston Primary needed painting. The classrooms at Charleston Primary, for example, needed painting because I am in touch with the school. I am in touch with the school. CSS, Charleston Secondary, had a gate up there that looked like you're going to fall down on you any minute. And it's been that way for years. If you lean too hard on it, you fall down, and you fall down with it. And these are the kind of things that if you attend the school, if you visit the schools rather, you would be aware of. So I, for one, have no sympathy, no mercy towards any member of education in a leadership role when it comes to the maintenance of these schools, because this thing has been happening. This video that we just played, maybe this is sad to look at. And the reality is, this may be the best of the worst. This may be the best of the worst, because one of the other schools on the island of Nevis, the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School, had its kitchen closed by environmental health.
By the own government's health department.
Yes, they had their kitchen closed, and as quiet as it's being kept, it is happening. And the Minister of Education is closely connected to that school. If I'm not mistaken, that's the school he went to. And members of his family went to the school. His mother worked tirelessly for that school. It means something to them. And to see that happening at Elizabeth Pemberton, it saddens me. And so now I am hearing that the food has to be cooked at another location and not one that is very close, and bust up to that school. I mean, you put added pressure, and don't get me wrong, yes, we should all try to help each other, but these are things that could have been avoided. These are things that could have been avoided. Some of it has to do with cleanliness, and some of it has to do with the actual maintenance work that needs to be done. I mean, Mervin, we're talking about school kitchens. There's also school bathrooms. There are also school bathrooms that are not fit for purpose.
My God.
And we are treating our children like animals. When we tell a child, when we fail to repair these things, we are telling the children that this is what you're worth. This is what you're worth. And that is not good enough, Mervin. So I have no mercy, no sympathy for any of them. None. Because they are inept. We had 2 months to get it right. That's 2 months to get it right now. But we also have an entire year where we can spread out the work and get things done. And we continue to fail our children. We continue to fail our children. And when you talk, they say you're playing politics. Well, I already tell mine. If you go to school and the bathroom makes you uncomfortable, go to the staff room. I said, teacher, can I please use the bathroom here? Remember your manners. And if they tell you no, teacher, can I please get a call to my mother? That's all you need to do, and I'll take it from there. I'll take it from there. Because this is madness. This is madness, and our children should not be subjected to this.
Why is it that it appears, before you go, why is it that it appears that everything just seemed to be either incomplete or inconsistent, or when it comes to this administration? Well, what is it? In all areas, basically, almost.
Mervin, because we have an incomplete administration. We have an incomplete administration, Mervin. That is the reality of the day. Listen, when we take persons to run for an election, we're taking persons who people like, yes. But we're not considering that these people have to go out there and do a job. You have a minister who dances for a living. That's all he does, dance. Right? And you put him in charge of certain ministries where you're going to dance every day? Dance every day? I mean, come on. Not because you went to school means you must be the Minister of Education. So that seems to be the qualifying factor in the system. You know? You went to school, you could be the Minister of Education. You live in a house, you could be the Minister of Housing. You don't have to own a house. You just have to have lived in a house. You get a cut. When you were 6, you're the Minister of Health. That is how we operate.
Wow.
That is how we operate on the island of Nevis. You were once a boy, you're the Minister of Youth. You're a female, they give you the Minister of Gender Affairs. That is how we operate. There's nothing connecting these people to the roles that they have. And then even if you aren't first in a particular area, the problem is they're not willing to work with the people who are to move Nevis forward. You would hear, there are people who, because you perceive them to be members of the NRP or supporters of the NRP, they could never get on the government's payroll. They can't even come in and advise you, you know? Maybe I can speak for myself quickly and tell you that, hey, this Culturama, leading up to this Culturama, I was not asking them. I was contacted by someone who, and I say it with humility, who understands and recognizes that I am good at what I do. And so they asked me if I can offer some assistance to contestants who will be vying for the various shows, vying for titles in the various shows. And I said, sure, not a problem. Bear in mind, I did not ask them. They came to me. Because this is somebody who wasn't playing politics. They just recognized that I can get this thing done. And then shortly after, that was rescinded. You're hearing, no, other persons have shown interest. And so I didn't show interest, but you came to me. And so we're going to go to the Central Committee, and the Central Committee will decide. Well, Mervin, you see what happened on the night of the Queen Show, for example, right? What happened on the night of the Queen Show, for example?
No comment.
In terms of the level of the interviews. And I'm not saying that I can make everyone a miracle, but I can tell you that the young lady who won Best Interview, she came to me. And I don't think she minds me saying this. It has nothing to do with moving Nevis forward. It has everything to do with politics, and we need to stop it. We need to stop it. Nevis is too small for that, Mervin. So I am going to take the approach that, I see a young man and I love the young man, and the young man supports him, so I am not going to be friendly with him. Madness. So what happens when I go to the school and my daughter's teacher is a supporter of the system? She's not going to teach my child. She's not going to teach my child. Not if she wants a job. Not if she wants a job. Because I would be I can't say certain things on the ear.
Right.
But you understand, this is too small. This is too small for this. And that is why we are having that problem with this government. Everything is going to be incomplete because we have an incomplete. We have people who, they are not well experienced collectively. And that's one of the things I really thought people would gravitate to when it came to the NRP, because we had a balanced ticket. You could easily see who would be placed in which ministries because it made sense. It made sense. Here, you don't see that happening. You don't know where to put anybody. You don't know where to put anybody in this government. And so, to be honest, sometimes there are few who may be trying, but they just don't know what to do. And everybody's afraid of the minister. They say, you can't sneeze in there, If they have cabinet meeting and the minister is not for you right now, and you sneeze, you watch your bad, and you have to say, oh, sorry, sir, my allergies. Huh? That is how they behave in India. And it's sad.
Jaedee Caines, it was a pleasure to have you here at THG Network. Your final words.
Mervin, again, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And to all of the people who voted for me and those who weren't able to vote for me, those who have lost interest because they feel like every year they continue to vote and they're not seeing any change, I'm telling you, please don't give up. Those who tried to make the change, I thank you. And I will continue thanking you by showing you that I really want to be the representative in Charleston, because I feel that I can offer far more than what it is we are currently getting. And for those of you who are discouraged, I'm saying, please don't give up. Because whether you vote or not, a government still has to be elected. And it cannot continue like this. We cannot continue under this current leadership. We cannot continue under SCCM leadership, because they have shown us time and time again that they aren't ready to lead the people of Nevis. And if they have had all of this time to prove to us what they are capable of doing, and they continue to prove the same thing, I doubt that there will be any change going forward. Because the more things change, the more they remain the same when it comes to this administration. So I thank you, and I ask you to continue to support. Continue to support. Some of you have some skills that we can benefit from. See how you can help us. Come and see how you can help us. Reach out to me. If I haven't gotten to you yet, you can come to me. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Because collectively, that is how we are going to move Nevis forward. Collectively is how we are going to move Charlestown forward. And I remain committed. And yes, naturally, after the election, as busy as I am, yes, I needed some time. I needed some time to kind of get back into some of the things that didn't get all of the attention like before. And so if you feel that it appeared as if I lost interest, understand that I too needed some time. I had to work on my family. I had to work on myself. But I am in that process of looking at where I fell short and seeing how I can move forward, how we can move forward, because Nevis needs help. Nevis needs change. And I maintain the only way that we can gain in Charlestown is if we vote for Caines. Jaedee Caines, that is.
Jaedee Caines, thank you. And to our listeners, thank you. And viewers, thank you so much for tuning in tonight at THG Network. And that was Jaedee Caines for you. Have a good night. Martin & Sons have been serving the people of St. Martin for over 40 years. And the food and service get better and better. From early morning, customers flock to the bakery for their favorite sandwiches, cakes, pastries, you name it. First thing at morning and last thing at afternoon, folks rush to Carl & Sons for simply the best. There are 2 locations, Colbay and on the Pondville. In Colbay, the opening hours are Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Saturdays, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Sundays, 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Opening hours on the Pondville, Monday to Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. We also cater for weddings, parties, special events, whatever the occasion. It's Carl & Sons. Our staff, we are always happy to serve you. Call us today, the Colbay location, 721-544-2462. That's 721-544-2462. Or in Phillipsburg, 721-543-1059. That's 721-543-1059. It's Carl & Sons Bakery. We are here to serve you.